All right, so welcome everybody for this lecture of Dukhee Jordan, a lecture which is a collaboration with KASK in Ghent. And in KASK you can later this year see her solo exhibition in which Dukhee focused on artificial stupidity and ecosystems, pointing down some of the areas in which she works, which is the area between art, science and mythology. So Dukhee makes performances and installations, motorized sculptures and eatable landscapes. She gets information from marine life, biology, sexuality and reproduction, nutrition and ecology. In a humorous way, she opens doors to an artistic universe where she creates romantic machines that copy or transform biological processes and chemical reactions between living organisms and dead material. Her work has internationally been shown in numerous of locations. And if you don't feel like going to KASK in Ghent later this year to see her work, you can also go to Shanghai, Points to Points, Berlin, and Floating University. You can go to Sonsbeek in Arnhem. And besides that, she showed in Sweden, in Trondheim, in Belgrade. And she has a solo show in Urania in Berlin, and another solo show in Quebec in Canada, just to name a few. So apparently also COVID doesn't always slow things down. After the talk, there is some time for questions. People who joined us before on Zoom know they can ask questions in the Q&A sections, and then I will read them out. If you're watching this or following this on YouTube or Facebook, you can ask your questions in the comment section, and also then I will find them. So then I give the word to Dukhee. And Dukhee, thank you very much for being here and joining us. Are you there, Dukhee? Yes, there you are.
Yeah, here. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, thank you first of all for inviting me. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And I will start the lecture about 4 main points I'm working on, which is first is artificial stupidity, then the ecosystems I'm creating, and then I will just step into it right now, and I have to share my screen with you. Can you activate the screen, please?
Yes, you can do it.
Okay. Yeah. So, oops. Wait. So this is the first main thing I'm working on since many years. It's called artificial stupidity, which became quite a stupid family of mine. And so they are like motoric beings. They inhabit my sculptural landscape, and they basically have a meaning, but they're not to, they will never make the world to a better place, even they are meant to be. And they have the point of to allow failure and reclaiming the domain of robotics in terms of non-intelligence. And as they reflect on human actions, and as I said, they are a prototype of an idea. And if we use Donna Haraway's term, they are philosophical, poetic, motoric critters, little creatures, so to speak, and does not a non-functional artificial bot have the right to inhabit our world as well. So, for instance, what would be artificial intelligence is basically if we characterize humanity and manhood or humankind, this would turn basically the failure into a success, right? And if we think about French cheese, so this would be explained by something going completely wrong and rotten. And from that rotten point of view, humans created cheese, which was eatable, which is basically, yeah, intelligence called. And this is a very, very early work of mine. I started like to dig into my archive to find this because this is really the beginning of the artificial stupidity I created. And one of them were like living, non-living. Some were basically uh, working with motors, and they just like I tried like different things, and this was even when I was in art school. I started working on biotopes and ecosystems, trying to find out what works and what doesn't work. And I can demonstrate. This is a fugu I found in Taiwan. It's a blowfish, very poison, and I smuggled it through the border back to Berlin, and I created this kind of time watch where the fish is basically drowning in its own sand. And then this was like the first try to attempt to uh, to create something movable with a potato. And on the other hand, you see a bird skeleton who starts like to say hi to you by also like using this motor which is inside this wooden stem. And then on the other side, you see a rattling motoric thing with a feather, and on top there is a rotten potato which is trying to reach the feather and this little robot. Yeah, here you see something green in water, didn't work out. And then this is like my German heart. It's a ink sprayed potato, and I conserved it inside a glass cube. So these works are basically more than like it's like 15 years old, and I still have them all. Even those potatoes you see here, I tried to connect them and to produce electricity so that the potatoes basically would create this energy flow for this watering machine. And then this came out. Yeah, so I made this watering machine, which was basically driven by the potatoes. So potatoes gave the machine the energy, and with the feather, the machine created this little water flow in order to water the potatoes. And then this was actually before I made this machine, I made this potato in-depth research with yeah, hydrogen, and then I tried to create the electricity with here with this the lamp and with copper and zinc, and then I came up to create this machine. Yeah, it worked for a little bit, but wasn't so yeah wasn't so intelligent at the end. And from that, I make the jump to the Springbrunnen, which is actually called like a, how do you call it in English? It's a fountain, a well, a spring, yes. And it's basically, it came to life by its name because Springbrunnen. And it basically doesn't do much. It just jumps around, and this is the way how I created it. But also in terms of if you think about Marcel Duchamp, who created the fountain, but basically it was not created by him. It was created by his friend Baroness Elsa von Freytag-Loringhoven. And yeah, and for me, it was this kind of humoristic statement of also creating a Springbrunnen, but a little bit different. And then, of course, yeah, so you see, size doesn't matter at the end. Yeah, this was the Springbrunnen. This all belongs to the artificial stupidity I created over the years. This one is atmospheres of breathing, and this is a more sophisticated artificial stupidity environment. And I will just like put the video on so you can see the documentation of it. I'm showing this work at the moment at the Transmediale in Berlin, and I think they open next Monday again. So by appointment, you can go there and experience this work. You have to call or to write them. And this work is basically is really the best to experience, because just by documentation or by these proxy visits they applied, which is a really great idea and approach for COVID times, but still it's something you should experience. And yeah, as you see, the room installation exists of a strange machine consisting of 6 glue inhaling balloons, which is attached on this resting chair with an air mattress. and you can basically lay down and you are immersed by the surrounding of this breathing environment. The sound of the mechanic breathing machine collides with the other sound, which creates by the singing saw and by the minimal composed sound scope, and which is accompanied by the video Staying with the Trouble, which basically shows you or immerses you into the micro and macro landscape, which you normally can't see. So you get basically drawn into it between ecosystem of monarch butterflies, cocoons, amphibians, and bacteria, mushrooms. There's cannibalism and sex, and they eat each other, and it gets really, really nasty at a certain point. But nevertheless, it's also called Don't Panic. So if you lay there, please don't panic, because you're also like, yeah, entangled with this breathing machine and the air mattress. And the air mattress basically starts to breathe in this 478 yogi technique, and this pattern of this yogi technique is to calm you down when you fear anxiety or you are in panic, you have death fear, so you can start like doing this breathing pattern. Yeah, and of course there's, you see this sculpture which is a sea cucumber on top. It's kind of like a broccoli, or you would also can say like refer to a virus. I don't know. It's like it came across my mind, and I started like also uh, to synchronize the lights with the breathing machine and with the balloons, and everything is basically breathing and yeah, is synchronized together. Even you are synchronized with it. So it's a kind of like also like manipulation in a nice way. But the sea cucumber is also like immortal unless someone kills it and takes it out of the ocean and eats it. This is basically how sea cucumber is dying. And yeah, and the surface of the sculpture is made of tartalac and wax, and it was repeatedly applied and removed all the time. So it took me like, I think like maybe half a year to basically remove and to apply, remove and to apply. And it's also then created in that time when the murder of George Floyd happened, and of course COVID was there, and this basically influenced this work really in a massive way, because who has the right to breathe and who has not the right to breathe, and what is right and what is not right. So all these things came up, and then it's also like with this calming and meditating and yogi breathe and breathing, it all comes into a state of also how are we surrounded by our atmospheres, and how do we react and how do we live in circumstances where we are now, and how are we related in human and non-human principles, and how does empathy actually works nowadays, because I have the feeling that empathy lacks through this whole situation where we are. But this is also like something I was thinking of when I created this work. Yeah, here's like another view of the room. And yeah, now we jump to the Buchsbäume, which I made for a handful of dust, which was curated by Pauline Dutreligne and Petra Pölzl for the Ehrenhalle last year. And this was also about fear and society. And the Ehrenhalle was a former Nazi Gedenkhalle, a memorial for the fallen soldiers in the First and Second World War. So there was like still like this kind of a lot of old Nazis came to basically, yeah, to honor whoever lives there is dead or yes. And the Buchsbäume is it's a natural border, right, for to segregate houses from each other, but also has this kind of very spießige, or how you say spießig in English? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the word in English now. When someone is really like, yeah, very strict, and this box tree plant is often used as a border between these houses to separate private and public space. And these box trees, they move and they try to make the border, but they're really like too stupid to do it. And here you can see on this little video, it's trying to escape. It didn't like the Ehrenhalle at all. It made all kind of really weird things. So it was also Albert Speer who created this Halle. Maybe the ghost was too close to the Buchsbäume. And from here we jump to the clapping clams, which also like I made for called Siggy on the Land of Drunken Trees. And these clapping clams, they also belong to the artificial stupidity. They just like clam, they clap like that. And this also an interesting part is that there was Ming the mussel who started to live in 1400 and something until 2004 or 5, and it got captured by some scientists in Iceland. So this Ming, the clam, just like lived through the entire colonial times and until now, until it got frozen and got captured by the scientists. And also an interesting part is that you also can basically read the entire lifespan ecosystem in a clam as the same as on trees in the rings. And yeah, here we have some coral sponges in the deep sea, and this is like a critter, also was moving and dancing around with a disco light. And here we have the water crab, was meant to collect waste in the sea, in the ocean, but as you can see, it's very unfunctional. The legs are too long, and here everything is very open. So this was a big failure. Very, very slow. So it will never come to terms to do anything right. It's like not possible. And then I modified it and I created then shorter legs, much faster with the control remote. It's really fun to let her drive around. So this was then shown in Kunsthaus Hamburg. It's called Making Kin and was curated by Anna Novak. And then here you can see the backward. So if it goes forward, it goes much, much faster. And then here we have the robotic waste crab. It's like the sister of the other crab. And this one is also like collecting waste. And then after 6 circles, it starts to throw out the waste again and collects it back again. I can also show you here. Yeah. And then she starts from a new, walks around and collects the waste and throws it out. Basically all what we do the whole time. Making waste, throwing it out, making waste, creating waste, whatever. Yeah, that's the singing saw, which we also saw at the Transmediale, with the breathing atmospheres. And then here we have the teapot. The teapot symbolizes the climate change, especially in Asia, because it makes the steam. So first it starts to get warm, and then it creates the steam, and then from the steam the thunder comes, and from the thunder the hurricane comes. And this is what the teapot does. So first it starts very slow and walks around, and then at a certain time it goes faster. Then the light starts from the bottom here appear, and then from the from the Rüsselschnüssel, the steam comes out, and then with the pot it starts like to shake, and then he stops. Yeah, and from here we go, we end the examples of the artificial stupidity, and we go into a more wild ecosystem, which is called Into the Wild. And Into the Wild is a completely edible table which I created, and it became longer and longer and more and more. And this was like shown at the Martin Gropiusbau last year for Down to Earth, and it was 65 meters long, completely edible. And I don't know if you can see that. There's a drone footage. No, it's not working. So, but yeah. Oops. This was the table when it was activated by a conceptual dinner. And the table, like the growing part, I always do in collaboration with Herbarium Leipzig, not always, but often. And then for the dinner, Mr. Chan helped me, and we collaborated in that. And we were like cooking inside, yeah, inside the Topographie des Terrors. And the challenge was because everything was without electricity, because they also like wanted to show how climate friendly a big museum can be. And yeah, so I had to cook without electricity, which was quite a challenge, I have to say. And for instance, here was like one part for the menu. So there was like one dish, was like 4 dishes, and the one was like for a recipe for Hito Steyr, the pyromanic algorithm. Then the ingredients were burnt clay, enclosed Jerusalem artichokes, drowned in a sea of fire, comes with a drunken Korean egg, combined with a fierce homemade herbal schnapps from Café Botanico in Berlin, which is basically the best cafe place ever if you come to Berlin, so you should go. And the methods you can read was like when pyromanic leads the world burns. Fire control changed the course of human evolution, allowing our ecosystems to stay warm. Cook food, ward off predators, and venture into harsh climates. It also had important social and behavioral implications, encouraging groups of people to together stay up late, but the algorithm turns its back. Human caused climate change and shifts to how people use the land have worked in tandem to greatly increase the risk of wildfires worldwide. Replacing monoculture forests into wild forests help fighting the wildfire disaster. And this was basically the dish then. So this was uh, the artichoke enclosed in clay. Here was the drunken Korean egg with the wildflower pesto. And yeah, this was in Buenos Aires. I made together with Pauline Dukhee, and we went there, also did the research and made a little documentation about the last bits of the rainforest and about the herbal plants and their problematic monoculture. And then everything you see on this table, we grew, and we also brought it from the from the rainforest back to the capital. And here you can see also bits of the research. So this was when we were there. It's Pauline showing some very rare plants with her maqueta. And this was my horse I found. It was a great help to collect all the plants. And yeah, so basically here you just like have also like a insight of how the installations come to life, because behind every installation there is a big research part like this. And here I go to another work. It's called Ziggy and the Starfish, which also involved a lot of research. And I stayed in the Basque Country for some time and went diving and filming and interviewing, met scientists. And then I came up with this idea of creating a waterbed where I showed the video inside. And the video, again, the starfish, is basically about the sexuality in the sea, in the ocean, about adaptation and about the curiosity and the wonder of how adaptable those sea creatures are. And I focused on the small animals, not on the big, like slugs and flatworms and little fishes. And so you could walk in here and lay on the waterbed, and you became basically a part of the ocean. So it felt like you were in it. And also made this sea animal soft sculptures, which are created by a textile designer in Kai. And here you see them hanging, and this was in Malmö, in the Moderna Museum of Malmö. So the piece was like shown in different kind of installation formats. Here you see the ghost shrimp, neon, and then here you see the sea pig, the sea anemone. And then, yeah, here we start again with a part of research. This was like me diving and having fun with the sea lion. Most of the dives I did like free diving, so without the big equipment, but sometimes I also went down with the equipment because you can just like stay the longer. And then this was sea urchin and starfish making up. And here another one is a part of the research and like the storyboard and images I shot in the ocean, like with octopuses and all kind of creatures there. Yeah, the starfish is actually as ancient as like and older as the dinosaur, and it's pretty creepy, I think, because it also has like this detachable acid stomach, so it can just like swallow everything, no matter what it is, and digest it with acid. And then if you also like, if they lose a leg, they can grow the legs, and if you cut the starfish in half, it can grow basically a new starfish from that. So it basically regenerates all the time and time and time and time. So you have a whole army of starfishes if you cut them in half. Yeah, this is really a very fascinating place. It's in Sumaya. This were also like where I did all the research for Sigge and the starfish. Here you see the layers of those rocks, and this was the last. This was one of the places where the like 65 million years ago our world started to extinct. And if you walk through that, you can see in between the layers the iridium, which comes from from the stars, which created this asteroid knall explosion. So you can read the entire history in this place, and you walk from between 30 kilometers. From 30 kilometers on, you can walk 65 millions back into 130 millions, which is really, really amazing. Yeah, and then you find all these things as well, also like a part of our world. And yeah, I think this was cute, so I put him in. And yeah, this was my dive buddy, so we went diving all the time. It was fun. And yeah, that's like me saying goodbye. And yeah, apart from the installations, before I also do the installations, I make this intense drawings, because the drawings are basically my brain and what I think, because the lack of my memory is very short, so I have to keep everything on paper in order to remember what I basically I was working on. And this was the story of corals, and I went into the metamorphose from Ovid. And this is Perseus, who is really tired, and he is like going to find the Medusa, the Gorgon sister, and because he wanted to free his love from the rock, which is Andromeda. Here you see her in different kind of poses, and in order to rescue her, he had to cut off the head of the Gorgon, and the blood was from the blood. Pegasus, the horse, came up, and the last parts of the blood went into the sea, and from there we have the Gorgon corals, or stone corals, the red corals. This is the story of corals, basically. And then I just like go through and yeah, this is like another drawing I made for a theater piece for a set design. It's called Herr der Krähen. It's a story, yeah, about a ruler who went to America to rule the world, and yeah, it's a parable basically. I'm not going into that now. Just like to let you see that from these drawings, the installations actually appears. This is Diaspora, which is a new work Pauline and I working on, and this is telling the story of colonialism and the story of the spices in that place. It's the view of the nutmeg. So you see Rumphius. Rumphius was a German, Dutch, yeah, migrant, they say, but yeah, colonizer who went to Ambon, and he stayed there. He got married with a woman, and he created all these natural historic books and drawings. This is how also like our museum started to evolve from this kind of yeah, researches. And then we have Garuda, the bird, and then we have which is half woman, half bird, and she's basically killing all the yeah, seafarer, the adventurers on the way to Ambon. And then here we have the same story, but like much more back. It's like the pest, and that nutmeg was basically protecting people from the pest, and yeah, so on. That's it for me. I will stop here now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dukhee. I think it was very interesting and nice to see your practice. I see there are already some questions. Maybe I will go. It's Ronnie Schrooyen or Schrooyen, who asks, in school you already worked with biotopes, ecosystems. I think we could also call them automates. When you say I was working on these to find out what works or not, what do you mean? The mechanical working of the artwork or the expression and interaction with the visitors? PS, nice glasses.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, like, with this green biotope, it was just like, I was just like looking after how fast I, like the water started to create the algae, and then, of course, so I left it in for like half a year, and it became more and more and more green, and brownish, because of the water was like not having enough oxygen. But of course what they need is basically CO2 in order to actually to grow. And this was like, so I did a lot of like yeah, little experiments with that in order to find out what in which way I can develop my practice, because I was always interested into that, and also in matters of electricity, because this is also like a part of nature, electricity. It's not that this is just like now we just like can plug it in, but this is also created artificially, but it comes basically also from nature, electricity. And so I started like to delve into that and try to make these kind of mechanical motors, you know, with the magnets and with the copper spirals, and trying to find out how far can I go. And then I started creating these machines, and after a few times, I started to yeah to fail with this how do you say Starkstrom, you know?
Zwakstroom in
Yeah,
Dutch.
yeah. So this was not good at all. And then I decided, okay, maybe I will like investigate in a different direction of it.
Mhm. Yeah, to elaborate a little bit on this, I found it also very interesting the position of research in your practice, uh, because it's very research based, part of it, but it's also like the artificial stupidities and the machine for cleaning up the oceans. Like it's also a bit of a fake research sometimes. So it's this mix, like it's just really this mixture of humor, not working research, but on the other hand, very serious research about ecosystems.
Yeah, but in order to make the fake research, which is not a fake research, you have to go to the point in order to make it that way. So that's why it's even like it's really like on point. Otherwise, I couldn't make it so like so funny in a way, because
Hmm.
otherwise I would not understand my own work. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah, so it's the function of the research is like it's starting with a question that you want to understand something, and then this research is being used to understand the things you want to know, or
Yeah, but also like to turn it upside down, because I'm not so interested in giving someone a solved option, or like to present something on a blade. So I'm more interested in like making my own research, and also like having this communication and collaboration with like specialists and scientists
Mhm.
in this area, and going really deep into that, but then taking this topic and really like making my own story out of it. And also like, as I said, like artificial stupidity can only work or is only created by humans,
Mhm.
because as without us, there would no artificial intelligence exist. And in the same way, artificial stupidity is created.
Mhm.
And so this algorithm also works in a way.
And then how do you see the, because in the beginning when you started talking about artificial stupidities, you gave this example of cheese, which is an artificial stupidity, like just by chance milk turned into cheese. Then if I look to the works you are making also inside artificial stupidities, it feels very thought through. And I'm wondering, how do you see the role of coincidence, of failure in these practices?
Yeah, I guess it's like in real life. So it's like trying and fail. Or
Mhm.
I mean, it's also nice not to fail, but it's a part of our life.
Mhm. Because it feels like it doesn't feel like failure or stupidity. It feels like a very ingenious process that's very thought through from the beginning, more or less.
Yeah, but you know, when these machines start to become alive. For instance, the water crab, yeah, I just like showed you two examples, one with the very long arms, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like I put it inside the water, it was just like doing like that. It's like, oh my god, you're
Mm-hmm.
too stupid, you cannot do anything. It's like, this is like a big failure. I mean, what can you do? I mean, nothing. So had to take it out. I was like, all the dirt was in it, you know. But this is my own stupidity. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is like just like me, which is like mirroring into the machines somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Also, like what I said, what we create is like our own mirror into what's happening here in the world. And yeah, but then from that point, I had to take the crap, and it underwent a big, yeah, cosmetic surgery, and it took maybe 2 years. So 2017, yes, and then last year it was like the first time I basically showed it. You see,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's a very very long process.
Yeah.
Sometimes yeah, sometimes I start doing something and then it's like it's not working, so it has to, it's created and it's there, but it needs to wait until maybe one day uh, it can nourish and come back to life.
Yeah, yeah, it turns into something. And
Yeah, something else. Yeah, like
did you,
cheese.
yes.
Yeah.
And did you also show the failed version?
The what?
The failed version, like the one with the long arms?
Yeah, yeah,
So that?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
There is a question from Naomi S. Good evening, Dukhee. I first want to thank you. So thank you for your presence and in a way your essence. I do have a complete other question, and that is, what kind of advice could you give to me or other young artists? P.S. I do like your glasses too.
They're a big success in my classes.
Yeah, before the lecture, we also started about them. So, uh,
Thank you. Um, I don't know, what kind of advice do you want to have? um,
I think it's about our art practice.
yeah, I have to see your art practice. So then I could give you maybe advice. It's really hard to say
Mhm.
something.
Well, I can imagine,
But
for example, like I don't want to talk in your name, but I can imagine how you talked about drawing, for example. That the importance of drawings can be something.
yeah, I think if you force yourself to sit down and to put your thoughts into onto paper and you start like to sketch everything down, which can be a pain in the ass, but afterwards you are relieved to get rid of all this ballast in your head. And then from that you also, like, I create a lot of like work. And the other part, I'm not sure, or I don't know if you're still in art school, but it's always good to have like one foot out of the art world, because of the art school, because um, this is a part and it's reality. But if you want to succeed, or if you want to succeed, but if you want to do your practice as an artist, and trying to have also like shows and get paid and whatever, so you should start from the moment on making your own practice and do do shows, get invited, yeah, be very stubborn on what you want to do.
So, what was your foot outside the art world?
I just like in my art school, it was the first year, no, the first 2 years, you were not allowed to have a show outside of art school. So you were not allowed to have a show in a gallery or whatever, and I ignored it, and I started like having my first show in the second semester.
Mm.
And I always try to have one foot outside of the art school to become, yeah, to become a part of it.
Mm.
But I was also very determined um, to succeed in that because I started studying art really late. So normally you'd think you would start like at the age of 20 and da 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 da. But I just like started studying art when I was 27.
Mm.
And I did all kind of other things beforehand. But for art, I thought like, "Phew, it's quite late, and if so, I have to really push myself."
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I was also thinking when you were discussing your works, it's very much. It's also a metaphor on society, on life, maybe on the world, like how we are dealing with our ecology. But it's a very much a relation, nature, human, these kind of things, and also looking to nature to get an idea about us, like the work which you discussed with the cucumber, for example, like what is breathing. But then I was thinking about the edible table. That this is a work. It's very much about us sitting together and eating together and being together in society, maybe. Like, in what way did this brought new ideas to you, or in what way do you want to develop these kind of researches?
I mean, the Into the Wild is always research based on the occasion I get invited. So every time there is a different landscape on it, there are like completely different plants, and these plants, it takes such a long time to make the research and to create actually this work, and also that the ecosystem functioning is functioning on the table, and it's not so easy as it looks like to do it. um, and in the first place it talks about abundance, but also like talks about like uh, a heterotopic landscape, what what I created, but then it becomes a self-working ecosystem at the end,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have any influence anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just also when it stands there for months, then um, there are like all kind of trees and other plants. They also grow on this table, so there's like this
Mm-hmm.
kind of mix table at the end. And also I'm talking about the landscape, I'm talking about the ecosystem, I'm talking about the soil, and I'm also talking about the ecology of food and the politics of it, what it creates and what this land and soil creates. And with this work, I also aim on the carbon, of the nitrogen, what we which we could like create in when we would make more compost, as also like Donna Haraway already said.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would create compost and we would put it on the acres, especially like in the aqua system, there is like only like a lot of fertilizers, and they go with the tractors over the soil. And the moment you just like put your shovel into the soil, you completely destroy the ecosystem. And this is also like something I'm trying to create awareness. And I think I can create awareness in the moment when you understand the magic of the table, when you become yourself a part of it. So, and every time when I do it, it's like also for me, like wow, it really works, because people are like so fascinated by just like by touching the plants and eating everything and trying everything, and then they start to communicate and say, hey, have you tried to eat this leaf? Wow, this tastes so, what is it? And then, oh, have you seen that? And then it becomes something very, very beautiful. And then in order to activate the table, to make it more approachable, this is just like for us, for making it also a little bit more fancy and nice. And so I create these menus. But the menus are also like always very conceptual, like what I just like read, like menu for Hito Steyer, or a recipe for Bruno Latour, a recipe for Paul Stammet, and then the dish is created in that way. So Paul Stammet is this kind of mushroom scientist. So I made this mushroom dish, which I started like to research in every piece, and then I start to create it. And the menu also takes like it's like work of yeah, which is underestimated actually.
I think a question that really adds up nicely to this is one by Maria. It's a two-folded question, I would say. When I look at the role of humans in your ecosystems, I see a role of a consumer, like with an edible table, or as a spectator, also consuming maybe, and you as a creator, of course. How do you see the role of humans in your ecosystems? P.S. Your jacket is amazing too. It failed. Or am I imagining them?
Oh, thank you, so many compliments. Yeah, I mean, it's like everything goes hand in hand. So we go with the ecosystem, but the ecosystem doesn't actually needs us, but we need the ecosystem. And to create the awareness, I'm trying to yeah, I'm doing this. And I did a lot of like, I'm a chef as well, so I'm really into food, and I grow the vegetables in our garden, and a lot of the table, which is like, yeah, which is so, I grew in our garden. And then I'm working with Andre, who's the Herbarium Leipzig, who has the perma culture, who's a perma gardener. And so we always take then the whole table afterwards, and either we start to compost it, and then we take the new soil and make the new into the wild table. So there's always like a circle. And then I started like creating the into the wild hill. So I placed it somewhere else. And my condition was that the ecosystem which I created and which will like then live by itself, it has to remain. It will not destroy. So this is very, very important for me. Everything what I'm doing is like is a circle of life and death, which is basically compost. No? This is what is really nice. This is going to death, but it comes back to life.
Yeah. I think maybe a question to end with is Simon, although there are two questions. So he's asking it in the chat section. So listening to you and looking at your website, it feels you tend to apply classifications or typologies to analyze your work. How fluid are the categories you create?
Where does that? Where is it?
It's in the chat section. I don't know if you see it in the chat, so it's not in the Q&A. So next to the Q. You have a chat.
Oh,
You see it?
Simon. Hi, Simon. Yeah, I mean, I created the sections because actually all my works are related to each other, but because sometimes they're so much related to each other that I'm getting confused by it. And then I had to basically created this kind of groups or classification to understand or to make it more understandable also for others, because it's easier than to follow the process of the work. But, so they are basically all related to each other. So and this is when I create a new work, it's always like connected to other works. So you will always see like parts in it where you probably have seen it in other works, or like the very first beginning in the video, which is very old. They're like the cubes. So these cubes are still existing, and there's like something new growing in it. You know, it's like an ongoing ecosystem or my system.
So, but then to answer the question, maybe, in which way do you tend to apply classifications or typologies to analyze your work? Are you working with typologies or classifications?
What do you mean by that? Like,
yeah, I'm also not sure if it's like maybe Simon can write down.
Yeah.
And he also said he loves your jacket.
Thanks.
And he is also asking what's. I think she answered. Okay.
Okay.
And then another question by Simon: what's your relation to spoken and written language?
I think I speak and I write in general.
Like things like Donna Haraway that are there. But I was thinking it's also maybe that you make a transition of what Donna Haraway, like the Cyborg Manifesto, you create this in something physical.
Yeah, sometimes I even I don't need to read the book. Sometimes it's just enough for me to read a quote or to read like the title, and then I'm making my own like thoughts of it.
Right. I think we had a long Q&A section. Maria is also asking, maybe that's I have to maybe okay. It's not a question. Well, then I think we can maybe leave it here. So Dukhee, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
It's really nice having you here. I'm excited to see what you will do in Ghent, and hopefully it's somewhere else as well, in Berlin, in Arnhem. I think Quebec is a bit far away. Also, if you look to our ecosystem, I don't think we should all go to Quebec to see your show.
No, so stay home.
Arnhem by train or Berlin. All right. So thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Yes, thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.